Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm Alfin Husniyah and today I'm going to present about an article that I have reviewed before titled Secularism and its Impact in the Islamic Education World, an article by Ibrahim Bafadhol. For today's presentation, there will be 3 chapters, which is Introduction, Discussion, and Conclusion. So without any further ado, let's get into the introduction. One of the challenges in Islamic da'wah is the notion of secularism. Secularism itself is separating religion from the state and social life and narrowing the space for religion so that it is only stored in the soul of each individual. Meanwhile, Islam doesn't recognize this kind of separation because a Muslim and all life belongs to Allah as the word of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala in the Quran Surah Al-An'am verse 162. However, in this article, the discussion will focus on the education field only. And now let's go to the discussion. In this chapter, there will be 6 sub-discussions. For the first discussion is going to talk about integration in education is a natural demand. One of the weaknesses in educational secularism is separating the education between the intellectual and spiritual. In fact, humans are essentially a perfect unity that is not separated into physical, spiritual, intellectual, or conscience. This is what has become a certainty in Islam. So when education is separated from religious guidance, there could be a spiritual truth in students. For the second discussion, it's going to talk about the bad impacts of educational secularism. There are many bad impacts of secularism in the education world, including: first, open the door to the growth of atheism; second, open the door wide for moral decay; third, the severing of history with the noble predecessor of the Muslims; fourth, neglect of spiritual education; fifth, obscuring belief in unseen things; sixth, shifting values and norms; and last, will bring up various lameness and problems. In the third discussion, it's going to talk about background of the educational secularism in Islamic countries. European thinkers try to instill their opinion in the non-Europeans' mind that holding European cultural values was an important condition for obtaining technological and scientific progress. They even insist that there are only 2 alternatives, either to follow European steps or they will be destroyed. This assumption has colored the mindset of many Muslim scholars, especially Western alumni. In fact, if analyzed scientifically and critically, this assumption doesn't make sense. And for the fourth discussion, it's going to talk about the difference between Christianity and Islam in viewing science. First is how Christianity in viewing science. The Church, along with many of its leaders, have been against science a lot. The Church, with the spirit of its unscientific doctrine, has repeatedly been shown to be proclaiming something which is very contrary to science. This is what makes people think that science is always right and religion is always wrong. This is the background of the emergence of secularism in the West. Second is how Islam in viewing science. There is no doubt that in Islam there is no contradiction between religions and science. Even Islam opens the door wide for science, thought, and research. The Quran has called for science with all its methodologies in more than 750 verses. Therefore, the idea of separating science from religion may have risen in Christianity, but not in Islam. And now we go to the fifth discussion, which is going to talk about solutions for educational secularism. So, among the possible solutions are: first, Muslim scholars should be active in writing books that make people aware about the dangers of secularism. Second, Muslim education experts are required to develop an educational curriculum that combines religion and science. Third, Islamic schools should implement the integrated curriculum so that it becomes a model project for religious education patterns. And last, Muslim educators who teach in scholars' schools should Islamize the subject they teach. And for the last discussion, it's going to talk about the ideal education according to Islam. The ideal education in Islam is education that combines religion and science, morals and skills, as well as intelligence and piety. This is the forerunner of a strong, advanced, and civilized nation. And finally, we come to the conclusion. Secularism has colored the education pattern in Islamic countries. Secularism first appeared in Europe due to the contradiction between the church and science, while in Islam there is no such contradiction. Therefore, secularism may have a strong reason to develop in European countries, while in Islam it doesn't. There are many bad impacts that have occurred due to the secularism in the education world. In dealing with this, cooperation from all parties clearly needed. The ideal education, according to Islam, is education that combines religion and science, morals and skills, as well as intelligence and piety. Okay, I think that's all from my presentation. Just let me know if you have any critics, suggestions, or questions. Thank you so much for watching, and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.